Hi, I'm Katie from Cooking Good, and today I'm going to show you how to make some homemade chicken goujons. So here I've got the main ingredient. This is 3 chicken breasts that have been sliced into small chunks. I use my knife and fork, so I'm not a big fan of handling chicken, and they're in small slices like this. So that's them. Then we've got 3 eggs. I usually allow 1 egg per chicken breast. Then we've got our flour. This is actually a gluten-free plain flour, but you can just use normal plain flour if you haven't got any allergies. Then we've got our seasoning. So I've got some salt, I've got some mild chili powder, you can use hot if you'd prefer, and I've also got some garlic granules. Then we've got our breadcrumbs. So I've got a big bag here that is basically when I've had some stale bread, I've actually whizzed it up in a food processor and popped it in the freezer. Make sure obviously there's no mould or anything on it, really bread that's just past its best and that you wouldn't want to eat as a sandwich. Or you can actually toast some bread and then blitz it up, and that would make some nice breadcrumbs. I'd recommend wholemeal bread for a healthier version, or if you've got white bread left over, that's fine too. Or you can actually buy breadcrumbs ready made for you, gluten-free, you'll find in the free from aisle, and also normal breadcrumbs that you can buy as well. So that's all our ingredients. Next I'll show you what dishes we need and how to prepare them. My chicken breasts have been sliced into small chunks. They've had all visible fat and skin removed. So now I'm just going to prepare the other ingredients that we need. So in here I've got my 3 eggs. So I'm just going to give those a quick whisk round. Don't need to have a whisker, a fork is absolutely fine just to combine the yolk and the white. Approximately 1 egg per chicken breast should actually be fine. Then I've got about 1.5 mugs of flour in here. There's no need to measure it out, just roughly estimate. I'd say probably half a mug, sort of this sort of size of flour per chicken breast, just tipped into the bowl, and then that'll be ready. In that bowl I'm just going to add approximately, so just a rough measure here, about half a teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of chili powder. If you want it a bit hotter, use the hotter chili powder, or just add a little bit more of the mild chili powder. And then I've got these lovely garlic granules, so they're great for adding to recipes as a dry flavour. So obviously the lazy garlic's really handy in some of the sauces, but this one is actually brilliant to add to dry ingredients. I'm actually only going to add about 1/4 of that because it's really strong, and I'm just going to sprinkle that over my flour. And then what I'm going to do is give that a really nice stir around, just to get all of that lovely flavour incorporated into the flour. So what we're going to do is we're going to dip the chicken firstly into the flour, so that keeps all the flavour packed inside the little chunks of chicken. Then it's going to be dipped into the egg, and this gives something for the breadcrumbs to hold on to. And then finally we'll dip it into our breadcrumbs and place it on a baking tray. Here I've got all my ingredients, and what I like to do is line them all up so that I don't forget what order I'm doing it in. So I've got my flour first, I've got my eggs that will coat the flour and the chicken, and then I've got a big nice flat tray of breadcrumbs. Finally I've got a little baking tray here that I'm just going to put the finished chicken goujons on. Okay, I've just popped my oven on to 180 degrees so that can warm up nicely while I'm preparing my chicken goujons. You can actually fry them in some shallow frying pan with some oil in, but that's obviously not quite as healthy, so I prefer the oven option. So basically what I'm going to do is take a chicken chunk. I'm going to take a few at a time, just pop them in the flour. It is best to do in batches so you get a good coating on all of your chicken. I'm going to give them a really good stir round in the flour just to make sure they're all coated, and then I'm simply just going to drop them into the egg. Shake off any excess flour if you can. There we go, pop them into the eggs. There we are. So once they're in the egg, I'm just going to literally give them a nice stir around, just so that they're all nice and coated, and then hold them up so that any excess egg drips off, and then literally drop them like that into my breadcrumbs. Here we are. Just let all that nice little egg run off. Seems to take forever. Right, and then literally just lay them onto our breadcrumbs. There we are. So now I've got them all in my breadcrumbs, so I'm literally just going to coat them like that. There you go, you can get a better view like that. Just cover them all like that in my breadcrumbs. Make sure they get a really nice coating, because that's what makes them really nice and crispy. There we are. And then I'll just grab a fork. We'll fish them out of the breadcrumbs, and then we'll just pop on a baking tray that I've just put some grease-proof paper on. You could use foil sprayed with a little bit of oil if you'd like to, but I've actually got some grease-proof paper. There we go. Make sure we get all our goujons out. Literally lay them on there. Usually find one tries to hide away somewhere in the breadcrumbs. There we are. So there's our first few. Then I just leave that there, and then I do the next batch. In addition to the normal breadcrumbs that I've got in this tray, I've actually got another tray of gluten-free breadcrumbs. So for my daughter, I do actually a separate batch. Same chicken, same flour and all the seasoning, that's absolutely fine to use because we use the gluten-free flour, and then I just pop it in the gluten-free breadcrumbs. And obviously if you're not gluten-free, you can just use your normal flour or the gluten-free flour if you've got it available with your chicken and your normal breadcrumbs. So here I've got the finished goujons. These ones which were done in the normal breadcrumbs, and I actually did these in gluten-free breadcrumbs just so that my daughter can eat them. And I just wanted to say the breadcrumbs that we used, they've obviously had raw chicken in, so you must throw these away. You can't actually refreeze them. And what I did forget to mention on the ingredients was just some olive oil. I've actually got it in a spray bottle just so it makes it easier to spray over these, but actually you can drizzle it from a normal olive oil bottle. If you haven't got olive oil, sunflower oil should work just as well. So I'm literally just going to give these a quick spray. There we go, it's all done. I'm going to pop these in the oven for 20 to 25 minutes and then they'll be ready. So here we've got our chicken goujons. I'm just going to get those out of the oven now. They've had about 20 minutes. Put them on a baking tray there. If you want to check if they're cooked, I'd suggest slicing one of them open and just making sure that there's no pink in the middle and just checking they're cooked through. So here we've got our lovely plate of chicken goujons. You can serve them with rice and vegetables or chips and beans or sweet corn. And these are absolutely great to pop in the freezer so that you can just have them for a different meal at a different time as a really quick fix. If you pop them in a freezer bag and write on the date and what they are so that you know when you actually made them, and then they will last in there for a good couple of months. So I'm actually going to have mine as a lunch. So I'm going to put about 3 in a sandwich, and I'm going to put a little bit of sweet chilli sauce. This is actually a wholemeal thins, so it's nice and healthy. I've got some mayo that I'm just going to put on there as well. I'm going to pop my lettuce in and then pop those two together. Ooh, there we go. And then if we chop that in half, that can be a lovely, nice, healthy lunch for me.